Why do we find it so easy to love a selfish, greedy, psychopathic drug addict? By which I mean Ragnar, of course. And why doesn't Lagertha seem to age? And which of Ragnar's sons will be downright dark enough to kill Lagertha in the final season? Hi, I'm Peter, and you're watching Ossa'm Movies. Like a dagger straight to the heart, let's plunge into the formula the writers used to create the characters of Vikings and determine what's really wrong with them. Ragnar Lothbrok. Don't you find it a bit surprising that Ragnar manages to draw so much sympathy from the audience, despite the fact that he was a bit of a ogre, to put it lightly? Looking at his life story, we see the tale of a young and daring adventurer who transforms step by step into a despotic, selfish, and brutal ruler, always ready to personally kill anyone who even slightly inconveniences him. Now some may say, hey, he was a charismatic leader and a great warrior, and that's what makes us have a soft spot for him. The ends justify the means. But is that really true? I mean, was he charismatic? Well, sure, no question, but was he a great leader? We don't think so. If you don't believe me, try and think back on all those episodes where Kattegat transformed into a great trading port under Ragnar's wise leadership, improving its defensibility and keeping the city and its people safe and secure. Give up? Yeah, because none of that ever happened. Ragnar was a messy leader who was only interested in fighting for his own selfish purposes, and that self-interest stunted Kattegat's growth. Far from playing the diplomat as a good leader should, Ragnar had little respect for other Viking leaders. He couldn't handle defeat in any battle as a proper king, and as a result, he ended up leaving his people for many years. And what about his awful treatment of Floki, his best friend and ally? So why do we love Ragnar? Does he have any redeeming qualities? Maybe if he were a good king who at least tried to care for his people and never abandoned them, but no. And he wasn't exactly husband or father of the century either. Ragnar wasn't exactly someone who treated his sons with love and respect. In fact, it's hard to find anything good to say about Ragnar. So why do people find him so fascinating to watch on screen? I guess the only explanation we can offer is that the golden age of TV is kind of seeing a renaissance of the anti-hero, or even the downright villainous protagonist. We just can't take our eyes off Walter White and his inexorable rise and equally shocking descent as Heisenberg. We thrill at seeing Don Draper stumbling through terrible decisions. We watch Stringer Bell's rise to be kingpin on The Wire at the expense of his community with bated breath. We delight at Tony Soprano and the inescapable violent cycle of mafia life. This impulse is why we can't stop admiring Ragnar as a character in spite of ourselves. Now don't get me wrong, we love to loathe Ragnar, but he's undoubtedly very flawed and a prime candidate for a video about characters who have something wrong with them. And yes, we must confess, we think that the show became way worse without him. Life without a bad boy can be, well, extremely boring. Just saying. Lagertha. Lagertha managed to hang on in the show way longer than Ragnar did, and it's something of a mystery about how Lagertha maintained her status as a strong and faithful female character in the face of all those betrayals. In fact, she was, dare I say it, a morally upright, good character. I mean, as much as one possibly could be good in the brutal world of the Vikings, of course. Though we do have a question about her, one that's surely shared by women, stylists and beauty gurus the world over. How on earth doesn't she age? Exactly how old is Lagertha then? She's at least in her mid-40s, or perhaps even her early 50s, right? So how is it that her character doesn't change a lot during 5 seasons of the show? The only obvious change was her hair turning grey, but even that's attributed to the psychological load of defeat in battle and the death of her confidant and lover, Astrid. Over here at Ossa'm, we get it that movies are movies and that sometimes, perhaps too often, younger actresses are used to portray older characters, but come on! This is the History Channel, the clue's in the name! Lagertha's son Bjorn looks almost the same age as she does, and her age is probably longer than the average Viking life expectancy. At the very least, Lagertha should have pretty terrible teeth because of, the quality of the food and just the downright difficulties of living in that particular era. Can you imagine what Lagertha should really have looked like if the History Channel would be just a bit more historically accurate? We certainly can. And in case you were wondering about more mistakes, anachronisms, and historical inaccuracies from the show, check out our other video. The link is on your top right. Anyway, let's talk about Lagertha's dark side. A usurper that values personal vengeance over common sense, utterly incapable of forgiveness. That's how we'd describe Lagertha's darker tendencies. While she's a far cry from someone as wicked as Ragnar, she's still in love with him, cause as we established, everybody loves a bad boy, right? And if you really think about it, you might come to realize that Lagertha can be qualified as, well, one of the most dangerous, deadly characters on the show. Sounds crazy, you might say, but the fact is that all of her lovers have died, and she's had dozens of them. Well, except for Rollo, I guess, but after knowing how these things work out, we can be sure that it's only a matter of time. It feels like there's only one way the show's writers have to completely end a relationship, and that's death. And there's also definitely something about Lagertha that gives her a strong sense of power, force of will, admiration from her people, and yet all of that comes with what seems like a deadly curse for all of her lovers. If you add up all these indirect deaths, it would probably mean that Lagertha has one of the highest kill counts on the show. And that's something that might come up in the final season, maybe. But timing is everything. Because we all remember the seer's prediction that Lagertha will be murdered by one of Ragnar's sons. And if the seer is to be believed, well, then we can only guess which son will be involved. Bjorn is off the table, right? I mean, he wouldn't harm his mother, unless it was some kind of horrible accident. And don't forget that it was only recently revealed that Bjorn might actually be Rollo's son and not Ragnar's. Ivar the Boneless. Well, this young man is for sure the #1 suspect to be responsible for Lagertha's murder. In case you doubt his drive or motivation, remember that he said to his mother, "I will kill you, Lagertha. Your fate is fixed." Pretty straightforward, I must say. We won't speak about all of Ragnar's sons here, though, but since we've been discussing characters with a dark side, we couldn't not talk about what must be the baddest of the bunch, Ivar. Like father, like son, Ivar's winning no prizes for his parenting. He abandoned his child, just as he was abandoned by Ragnar, which made for a pretty great plotline, because it means we can easily see how Ivar the Boneless is a direct result, a product of Ragnar's darkest urges and the worst of his personality, right? And yes, he gets much deeper and darker than Ragnar ever did. A tyrant with no morals, a ticking time bomb with no care for his people at all, Ivar is the Ramsay Bolton in the world of the Vikings. Well, except for his impulsive behavior and lack of what we might gently refer to as a sex life. Tempering factors without which we might say that his insanity is even worse. And also means it makes no sense about how Ivar managed to father a baby of his own. Anyway, despite his really creepy personality, Ivar truly loved Ragnar and defends all of his father's wrongdoings. In his own horrifying way, he truly believes that he's following in Ragnar's footsteps. But of course, his vision is completely wrong. The son who really represents Ragnar's will the best is undoubtedly Bjorn. He represents all the best of Lothbrok's goodwill, which pretty much makes him the polar opposite of Ivar the Boneless, and makes him one of the best and brightest characters on Vikings, though again, whether or not he's Ragnar's biological son is questionable, but he is his spiritual successor for sure. Will that be confirmed in Season 6? We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? Are we right about the most dastardly people on Vikings? All very different, but dark in their own way. Thanks for watching this video. Let us know about any other contenders for the darkest character on the show in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel, and as always, thanks for staying awesome.